If your MVP needs a DevOps team before it has users, your stack is already too complicated. If I had 48 hours to launch in 2026, I would not start with Kubernetes. I would not build microservices. And I would not spend 2 days stitching together a pile of cloud services just to look like a serious startup. Because early on, complex infrastructure is usually not an advantage, it is a delay. A lot of builders get stuck here. They have a solid idea, they are ready to ship, but instead of launching, they disappear into deployment decisions, database setup, Docker problems, cloud pricing confusions, and architecture rabbit holes. So, in this video, I want to show you the hosting stack I would actually choose if I need to launch fast. And when I say MVP, I mean the first real version of your product. Not perfect, not complete, just good enough to launch, test, and get real users. Because most MVPs do not fail because the idea is bad. They fail because the startup becomes too heavy before the product gets real chance. So here is the stack. One app, one simple compute layer, one managed PostgreSQL, optional object storage, simple CI/CD, a real domain with SSL, and basic monitoring. That's it. So let's start with the app. For the application itself, I would keep it in one code base if it's possible. That could be Next.js, Node.js, Rails, or whatever framework you know best. If the front end and back end can live together without pain, I would keep them together. Why? Because every extra service creates extra complexity. More deployments, more logs, more networking, more failure points, and more time lost. Most early products do not have scale problem. They have a speed problem. So I want one app, one deployment, one place to debug, and one place to fix when something breaks. In most cases, I would host the app on either a simple cloud virtual machine or a simple application platform. Why? Because I want to understand exactly where the app is running, how to restart it, how to deploy updates, and where to look when something fails. Simple infrastructure may not look impressive, but it works. And for an MVP, working matters more than looking advanced. Now, the database. For the database, I will choose managed PostgreSQL, not self-hosted, not something exotic, just managed Postgres. Because your database is the last place where you want extra stress. You want backups, stability, security, and as little manual maintenance as possible. Managed PostgreSQL gives you that. It is reliable, widely supported, and strong enough for a huge range of products. If the product needs a file upload, media, documents, or generated assets, then I would add object storage, but only if I actually need it. That part matters. I'm not adding services because they look good on an architecture diagram. I'm adding them because the product really needs them. If users uploading images, PDF, videos, or files, then yes, object storage makes sense. If not, I skip it. That is one of the best rules for MVP infrastructure. Do not build for possible futures. Build for current needs. Now, let's talk about deployment. My deployment setup would be simple. Code goes into GitHub, then I use GitHub Actions or another lightweighted CI/CD tool to build and deploy the app. That's enough. At the stage of MVP, understandable is better than impressive. I do not need an enterprise pipeline. I just need something that can build the app, run a few checks, and deploy it cleanly. If Docker makes it easier, I will use Docker. If it creates more friction, I will skip it. That is the rule. Then I add a real domain and SSL. This sound might be basic to you, but it matters. A proper domain makes the product feel trustworthy, launch ready, and easier to share and test. If I need a basic caching CDN or simple edge protection, I add that in the simplest way possible. Now we can go to monitoring. For an MVP, I do not need 20 dashboards or advanced tracking. I need to know if the app is up or if it's falling. I need accesses to logs, and I want basic alert if something important breaks. That's enough. Now, let me tell you what I'm not using. I'm not starting with Kubernetes. Not because Kubernetes is bad, but because for most MVPs, it adds more setup, more decisions, and more operational complexity before it gives even a real value. I'm also not starting with microservices as well. For the most MVPs do not have a service boundary problem. They have a focus problem. Splitting a young product into multiple services too early usually means more overhead, harder debugging, and slower progress. And I'm definitely not connecting 5 cloud providers and 10 different tools to just feel flexible. This is not flexibility, this is overhead. So, if I had to summarize my MVP hosting stack for 2026 into one sentence, it would be this. One app, one simple compute, with managed PostgreSQL, optional object storage, simple CI/CD, a real domain with SSL, and just enough monitoring to sleep at night. This is more than enough for a huge number of products. Later, if traffic grows, the team expands, deployments become risky, or operational pain becomes real, then complexity can earn its place. And this is the key idea. You should earn complexity. You should not start with it. Too many teams build like they already have millions of users. Most of the time, they do not have even 10 users. They just have to start. You know what they have? They just have fear. Fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of looking too simple. Fear of rebuilding later. But rebuilding later is normal. The wrong move is not simplifying now and upgrading later. The wrong move is slowing yourself down today because you are trying to impress the future that has not happened yet. So, if you are building something right now, you should remember this. You do not need a perfect cloud setup. You need a setup that gets your product into users' hands without wasting your week. Start simple, launch fast, improve later. This is our basic advice for people who are going to release their application soon. Just keep it simple as possible. And if you want more content like this, feel free to subscribe to our channel. See you on the next one.